Hello all, myself Shazad Mohammed. My thesis topic is learning spaces as an element to nurture the process of learning. It is a case of Waldorf school located in the district of Malappuram in Kerala. So learning space is more than just a present scenario school. It would have a concept of learning over teaching or an alternative way of learning approach. There are many philosophies by different educators like Maria Montessori, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and Waldorf philosophy by Rudolf Stein, etc. So I have chosen Waldorf philosophy as an aspect to design school and its curriculum. Due to the present schooling system with current severe conditioning and comparing between children, the passion and skills they possess are drawn away from them at the young age itself. So there are many alternative education schools coming up right now in the world, including India, to change this current system of education. And I think this alternate education is a pathway to alternate visions and possibilities. So Kerala, though having highest literacy rates among other states in India, has a huge scarcity when it comes to alternative schools, like in places like Bangalore and Pondicherry, etc. Some of the shortcomings of alternative learning schools are the adjustment issues faced by the children coming from conventional schools. Since most of the schools in India, or like in the most of the alternative schools in India are limited to pre-primary or primary school, so children change their school after this age. So they face issues in adjusting to the curriculum and rigorous environment in conventional school. On the other hand, students shifting from conventional schools to alternative learning schools find the education less competitive and rigorous. The other problem is that the admission to higher education in colleges and all, children are facing difficulties right now due to the alternative education being less recognized right now. But in the future, right now, it's happening. Like the alternative law of learning is getting recognized in many parts of the country. So the main aim of my thesis is to design a learning environment in which both the built and unbuilt spaces and its relation to the natural surroundings nurtures the process of learning in a child. The main objective is to design a space that integrates and enhances nature inside the spaces for creating a better learning experience. Then designing spaces with surprise elements, thereby developing a certain curious and exploratory mindset in children. Then there will with the design which will be having maximum interaction between teachers and students themselves. Then to develop various features and parameters responsible to encourage facilities and nature learning processes. So I have chosen Waldorf philosophy as an aspect to design the school. So Waldorf education was created in the early 20th century by Rudolf Steiner. So the central idea behind it was to create a curriculum that correlated to the development of the child as well as to educate the whole child. So the main keywords of philosophy in Waldorf philosophy is open planning, student-teacher relation, natural environment, co-curricular activities, experience and harmony, students as a community, etc. So through the I have visited a kindergarten kind of school in Kochi, which is working on the Waldorf philosophy. So the alternative practices that they practiced was the circle time, choice time, so small group interactions, one-on-one interaction with teachers, mixed age learning, storytelling time, etc. And brief structure of a day would be like having outdoor activity games. Circle time is like in which students sit together, students and teachers sit together and talk about the things happen during day and the school time. Then project time, tiffin break, dance, music, arts, like extracurricular activities. Then basic maths, science, languages, lunch time, choice time, etc. So coming to the aspects of pedagogy in Waldorf philosophy, there are different learning settings in different spaces of the schools, like classrooms, outside classrooms, circulation areas, and all. So there are many different pedagogical activities like delivering, applying, creating, communicating, decision making, etc., which would have different behavior and spatial icons, spatial behaviors, and all. So some of them are collaboration incubators, group learning spaces, presentation spaces, individual pods to for children to think, breakout spaces, display spaces, outdoor learning environment, etc. So I have chosen my site in the Inkel EduCity, which is a proposal for an educational hub in the district of Malappuram. The site EduCity is just 7.6 kilometers away from the Malappuram town, and this residential school was one of the proposals in the educational hub during its initial stages. So this is the whole site plan of the EduCity. The large red marked is the existing main entry to the site, and the yellow and orange are the existing roads to the sites. And the whole site is surrounded by mostly by agricultural land and residential areas. So the red area I marked is the site I have chosen for my school, and since it is a topmost point of this site, it has views towards the distant hills, as shown in these pictures, in the north and western eastern sides. And these are the existing mud roads adjacent to the site and view towards the site. So there are buildings in the edge city right now, existing buildings in the edge city right now. So coming to the proposed site, this is the site. This is the site plan with an area of 23 acres. So it is a contour site with an interval of 3 meters. So as you can see in the side sections, vegetation is more in the sloped areas than in the present area, like flat areas. Flat areas are having less or no vegetation. So since the site is having good views, pleasant views towards the north and eastern sides, academic buildings can be placed on the northern sides and all, and flat areas can be utilized for having playgrounds and all. Uh, Views from the sites can be maximum utilized by having like buildings with more transparency and all. These vegetations can be preserved in the site by having buildings raised upon stilts and all, so that landscape can go underneath the buildings and all. So the project brief is to design a school which explores the application of Waldorf philosophy, would serve a student population of around 600 to 800 students. So it shall provide education to students from 2 to 18 years of age through three major divisions. One is kindergarten, two is primary and middle section, three secondary section. So all these academic blocks would have classrooms of 25 children per classrooms, with storage areas, learning space, and common areas. Then teachers would be with a ratio of 25 students per 25 one teacher per 25 students, and would have common learning spaces, outdoor learning spaces, and extracurricular activities like music, dance, workshops, etc. Shared facilities like amphitheaters, libraries, computer labs, cafeterias, stationaries can be provided. And other activities includes camping grounds, small scale farming, common open spaces for gatherings and interactions, etc. And a student hostel can also be proposed for students to stay like as a residential school. So the basic ideas formed when starting to design were the framed views towards the distant hills, landmark feature visible from all areas of the school and from outside, giving the school an identity. Then courtyards or playground with an enclosure with buildings or anything, so that it gives an enclosure for the playgrounds. Then spaces beneath the buildings for as open spaces and learning spaces. Then sunken pathways or corridors, giving the spaces around them an enclosure. So coming to zoning and massing, Academic blocks are placed facing north with access to courtyards or open spaces from all sides. Hostel blocks are placed on the south side of the site as minimum users are present during the daytime and a connection provided to the academic block. Administration and kindergarten blocks are provided near entry for easy entry and exit of guests. Workshop, cafeteria, and amphitheater are zoned at the eastern side of the site. Then camping grounds are provided at the slopes in the eastern side of the site, preserving the existing vegetation. Coming to the open spaces of playground diagram, all the classrooms have immediate access to the open spaces on both sides for playing and outdoor learning. Open spaces gradually slopes down according to the site with stepped seating and hence open spaces provided between beneath the buildings. Then pathways are sunk and the central open space slopes upward from the pathways to create an enclosure for the pathways and creating that the central space as a park for in between the academic and hostel blocks. Then coming to the circulation diagrams, two main pathways along the west to east axis is provided for academic and hostel blocks. Pathways connecting academic and hostel perpendicular to the main axis cuts through the central open spaces, creating a sunken pathway. A loop of circulation is provided throughout the school. Then coming to the landmark feature, a clock tower is provided as a landmark feature in the central open space as visible from all areas of the school and from outside, giving the school an identity. Clock tower foot also acts as tunnel breaking, a visual connecting of the pathway connecting academic and hostel blocks. A mount provided in the central park breaks the visual connectivity of the play area from the main entry. So coming to the design, and this is the proposed master plan of the school. So the existing entry to the site is enhanced in the west side, and views are along the roads. Views towards the hills are present, and upon reaching the drop off, these views are either framed or like glimpses of views are present, and the views towards the central open space is enhanced, create making people to go there. So the kindergarten block is placed near the admin block itself, so as for the comfortability of the parents to pick and drop their students. So upon entering, the pathway becomes widened and steps downwards to the main pathway of the academic block. This is the main pathway of the academic block, and these are the academic blocks. And library is placed in between the academic blocks as a sunken library, and the roofs of the library would act as an open space. So these are the amphitheater, workshop, and cafeteria areas. These blocks are slightly isolated from the main entry, and these are the hostel blocks, and these are the central park. I would be rather explaining design through isometric drawings. So on the screen you can see the overall bird's eye view of the school. The entrance is through these pergola space leading through to the admin block, and right adjacent to it is the kindergarten block with courtyards in the center. These are the four academic blocks which is adjacent to the cafeteria and workshop space, and on the south side you can see the ladies and gents hostel. So when looking at these diagrams, you can see the circulation diagram. Like the circulation is mainly there are two type axes of circulation. That is a east to west axis and the north to south axis. So the main axis is the east-west axis, which is the academic pathway and the hostel pathway. So connecting these are the north-south axis, and these the pathway connecting the academic and hostel breaks the central park into uh, two parts actually. Then when talking about the open spaces, you can see there are two different colors of greens depicting different types of open spaces. These dark open spaces represents playgrounds such as football fields, badminton courts. These green in the center represents the central park of the school, and the green behind the workshop block represents the organic farming areas, and the light greens represent the open spaces or courtyards for learning and interaction between the school blocks. And when looking at the built to use plan, the orange and blue represents the kindergarten and admin blocks respectively near the entry. Red blocks represents the academic blocks, violet as library, gray as amphi, green as cafeteria, brown as workshops, and blue as swimming pool. And the yellow represents the hostel blocks on the south side. So this is the exploded isometry of the whole school block. So when looking at the screen, you can see the ground floor isometry. So this is the main pathway with the pergola pathway, as you have seen in the view, connecting to the kindergarten block, the academic block, and the main entry. So when going through the kindergarten block, it is stepping down 1.5 meter below the ground, and all the classrooms are placed on that level. And there is an open like indoor play area for the kindergarten, which is shared between the ground floor and the first floor of the kindergarten, and a courtyard in between. And the playground of the kindergarten is further stepping 1 meter from the minus 1.5 meter level, and is connected to the academic block through a ramp. And when entering through the admin block, there is a reception and a back office and a lounge area with framed views towards the hills, and also views towards the central park area. And when entering through the main entry, there is a visual connectivity which is broken through by these the mounts in present in the park, which also creates an enclosure for the park, and having playgrounds on them, playing areas on them. And the main pathway steps down 1.5 meter, and the main reaches the academic block. So the main pathway of the academic block is like minus 1.5 meters sunken from the main central park area, which is connected through a sloping landscape which is having stepped seatings on them for interaction and learning purposes. So when talking about the academic blocks, this is the middle school, and this is the primary school as one block, and this is the higher secondary block and the common facilities and as another block, and the kindergarten, no sorry, the library block as a sunken uh, block between these two blocks. So the central Kunt area steps down through the library and reaches these open spaces, and the open spaces in between the open spaces or courtyards in between the middle school and primary school are used for playing. And it steps down to the open spaces under the building, and reaches the space in front of the library. In the same way, open spaces between the higher secondary and common facilities also steps down under the buildings and reaches in front of the library. The open spaces in between the uh, secondary blocks is more of kind of interactive space with seating, benches, and pathways and all. But when coming to the middle school and primary schools, the open spaces are more of a playful approach for smaller kids, with mounts and tunnels through them. And the central Kunt space acts as a space for circle time, interactive space, and shows and all. And it connects to the library. When walking further, these two blocks connect. These two blocks are the toilet blocks, of which its roofs would be connecting to the first floor of the buildings. As you can see in the screen, the roofs of the toilet blocks connect to the first floor of the building. Walking further, there is an amphitheater block which is connected through the academic block through these steps, and the cafeteria blocks would be having a balcony dining space to directly having visual connectivity to the stage of the amphitheater. This is the workshop space, which will be having courtyard spaces in this middle, and an organic farming space behind them, and an irrigation tank right adjacent to the workshop space. And this is the swimming pool. And working further, there are playgrounds on either sides of the hostel blocks. These are the hostel blocks. So there are playgrounds on either sides of the hostel blocks with a connection through the hostel blocks also, and interactive spaces in between the hostel blocks. And the academic and hostel blocks are connected by sunken pathways through the clock tower, which also like breaks the visual connectivity from academic to the hostel. Uh, so this is the first floor isometry of the building, and as we said earlier, these are the toilet blocks, and its roofs are connecting to the first floor of the academic blocks. Looking at the academic block, when designing, the basic consideration was to have courtyards or open spaces from like access to courtyards or open spaces from all the classrooms, and the access should be immediate, like right outside the classrooms. So as you can see, the middle school and the primary school here shares courtyards or open spaces in between them, which is immediate access from the classrooms. And in between the classrooms, we have breakout spaces and display spaces for interaction and collaboration spaces, as we said, as we considered according to the pedagogical aspects in Waldorf philosophy. This is the art studio. And for the primary school, there is a play area in between, the indoor play area in between all the classrooms. And this is the central kund area and the roof of the library, acting as an open space for the students from both the blocks. And the open space in between the higher secondary block and the common amenities is like more of an interactive kind of space with seatings and all for elder students in higher secondary and secondary schools. And the spaces between the classrooms of higher secondary would be same, like breakout spaces and display spaces for interaction and presentation and all. And these are the staff room areas, music studio, and art studios for the blocks. So this is the first floor plan of academic block, which is kind of similar with bridges connecting both the blocks, and balconies kind of spaces, which are breakout spaces with views protruding outside the classrooms. And there are bridges connecting the pathway, like the blocks. So this is the north side elevation with as you can see, like when zooming, you can see there are activities happening right under the buildings. There are interactions happening, learning happening. This is the library block with like access as a sunken space, and there are children playing under the building and all. And the landscapes comes down and goes through the building, and again goes through the library to the above areas. And this is one of the rendered view of the north side elevation. So as you can see, this is the section through the academic block. So as we have said, this is the toilet block, which would be having its roof as a connection between the park and the first floor of the building. This is the mount space for playing between the primary school block, and the landscape is further going downwards. And these are the landscape, no, sorry, landmark feature, that is a clock tower and a water tank. So talking about the kindergarten block, the basic plan of the kindergarten is in such a way that there is a courtyard in the middle, and a playground space which steps down and with has is open to views towards the north side. And when entering, this is the main entry of the kindergarten block through the pagoda space, and it is like stepping down minus 1.5 meter level. The classrooms are these are the classrooms, and this is the reading or library room, and these are the rooms for staffs, and this is the courtyard in the center, and this is the mezzanine floor, which again rises 1.5 meter above, and this acts as a mezzanine play area for the first floor and the ground floor of the kindergarten block. And the connection to the kindergarten block first floor is through at the main entry level, as this is the step connecting first floor, and there is also a step connecting through the play area, that is the mezzanine floor play area, as you can see in the isometry. These steps connects to the first floor from the entry. This is the entry. This steps connects to the first floor, and also the steps from the first floor connects to the mezzanine play area in the ground, like to the mezzanine play area. Yeah, so you can see the roofs of the kindergarten blocks as a sloping roof, so that the play area gains more north lights and ventilation and all. So this is the an axonometric model view of the kindergarten block. This is a rendered view of the court. Like this is the playground area, and this is the common that mezzanine play area. So talking about the workshop and cafeteria blocks, the basic thing considered while designing workshop was to have a more of a human scale building, like for children. So the courtyards would be like kind of small, and the workshop would be divided into different blocks according to the needs, like clay making, sewing, carpentry workshops, etc. And there are office spaces and storage spaces for workshop. This is the staff area for workshop. So this is the main entry to the workshop from the pathway. There are one, two, three, four, five workshops, and an organic farming for the students, and there is an irrigation tank, and there is a cafeteria block which with an balcony, like semi-open balcony with dining spaces, which with views towards the stages of open spaces, sorry, amphitheater. And there is the stationery shop, and there is a service road coming here in the behind the cafeteria block, and this corridor acts as a service corridor, which is visually blocked from all the public areas. And there is a service area into the storage area of the workshop and stationery block. So this is basically a storage space for stationery and workshop blocks. So this is the section through the workshop block, through the amphitheater, workshop blocks, and and the swimming pool. So this is the explored isometry of the workshop block. These are the workshop block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 5 workshop blocks, and having organic farming spaces behind them. So this is the irrigation tank for the farming space. So these are the service area, as said. The service corridor leads to the kitchen area, the service courtyard in the back of the stationery and workshop storage space. And this is the cafeteria block with views toward, like with the dining in the balconies, also with views towards the amphitheater stage. So these are the views of the workshop block, and the workshop blocks would be having views towards the, like as a to the landmark feature, that the clock tower from inside of the workshop block. So these are the views of the workshop blocks. So when starting to design, library was zoned in between the both the age groups of academic blocks, so it would be easily accessible for both of them to access the library. But when designing the academic blocks, the basic thing was to have a connection to the courtyards immediately from the classrooms. So considering both these aspects, and since the site has got slopes, library was sunken into the ground, and the roof was made into an open space, meeting both the needs. So this is the explored isometry of the library block. As you can see, the roofs of the library is an open space, and also it has got I have provided light wells for skylights in library. And this is the section through this library block. This is the library, and these are the skylights for lights. This is the cone which gradually steps up towards the pathways, which has a sloping connection to the park areas. And the platform of the water tank acts as the bridge between both the parts of the park. And these are the kun spaces, kund interaction spaces between the library and sorry, the hostel blocks. So my special topic is about transforming social school open spaces into learning spaces. So basically, designing a school, the primary concern of designing school is more than designing a classroom, and it's all about more designing the spaces outside the classroom actually. So the learning happens outside the classrooms. So I have given more importance to the spaces outside the classrooms actually. So when discussing about the learning landscapes, we can see that according to the studies, schoolyard that has transferred into landscape learning landscape articulates space, culture, and the children's view, such that it promotes physical, socio emotional and cognitive learning in the child minds of children. So as you can see in the picture of Shreyas School Ahmedabad, there is a water pool which also acts as a learning space for children. That is, it has a world map on it, and each children is standing on each continent. So these type of learning actually happens inside the classroom. So it actually right now it happens inside the classrooms. So if we design spaces with such approaches, these types of learning can be taken outside and can be taught to children in a much grasping way for them. So many schools are right now adapting to outdoor classroom methodologies right now. And the other aspect is the risk of play, like to add adventure type of playgrounds for children, for like to acquire all sorts of skill. Like children tend to have like children and teenagers need a diverse and challenging space that encourages active free play outdoors. So during play, students discover personal interests and build social relationships actually. So the learning landscapes design considers the students' ages without underestimating them, so they can test themselves and make decisions and self-regulate and find their own limits. So I have in my design, I have given various types of spaces so that learning happens outside the classrooms actually. So that considering the risk of play and all, there are spaces which would these are the parks with small sand pits and other things which people like children can build their own things and all, and there would be learning happening on the sand pits with like drawing on them and all, and building something out of them and all. And there are mount spaces through on which students can climb and all. There are adventurous playgrounds which students can test themselves, like take up challenges of different skill sets. There are spaces beneath the buildings, so that there is an individual like contemplation kind of things and all. There are cones for social, and like there if there are some small kind of interactive programs and all happening. And there are stepped seatings, as we can see. It is said in the pattern language that if there are any public spaces where people loiter, we should add some steps for making it more interactional and like more of a social space. So the stepped seatings are provided in parks and landscapes. So these are some of the rendered views of the schools. So this is a view from the park with the sloping landscape with stepped seating on them. This is the pathway, and these are the cone space, and this is the higher secondary academic block. As you can see, this is the view of the park from the first floor of the middle school. This is that mounts area, and this is the clock tower, and these are the open spaces in between the primary school. This is the primary school and the middle school, which in which the landscape goes downwards, and there are seating spaces for children and all. This is the view of Kund space and the park space from the higher secondary block. As you can see, there are people sitting on the Kund space and all. So when talking about the pedagogical response in design, as we have talked about in the first stage, there are different pedagogical aspects based on the Waldorf philosophy to be considered while designing the interiors or the classroom spaces, breakout spaces, display spaces, individual pods, group discussion, project areas, collaboration incubators, outdoor learning space, etc. So I have provided these kinds of spaces inside the classrooms, and as an open as a semi open spaces also. So the blue spaces represents the uh, represents the breakout spaces, display spaces and all, and the red spaces represents group discussion spaces, project area, collaboration incubators, which are inside which happens inside the classrooms. So in the case of middle school, it happens in this manner. This is in the case of primary school, and this is in the case of higher secondary and secondary schools. So basically, was my school design. Thank you.